Hi, I'm Cheryl Pell. I'm a faculty member at the School of Journalism at Michigan State, and this week I'm teaching You're Designing the Newspaper. The course is for people who already know InDesign and have some capability, know some of the tools, and I end up teaching some as well, but mainly I want you to come in there with a pretty good grasp of how to get words and pictures on the page. And it's nice if you've been on the staff before and can handle that. But then I try to take you to a little higher level, and that is using sort of bigger type. I notice in a lot of student newspapers that students tend to want to make small type, but I say one of my mottos is go big or go home. You know, you've got to have some big images to look at. You want to be able to maybe take a picture of your front page and tweet it out. Well, if all you can see is like little headlines and no, tiny pictures, that's not exciting. So I'm trying to get people to really think about their paper as more of a magazine, really, and less of a newspaper, especially if you have an online presence where you can shoot the news out there every day or every other day or something, and then use the newspaper for more of a magazine and tell the stories of the people in your school, and with great photography.
You're Designing the Newspaper is a really cool class where you get to learn skills to make your newspaper better and more creative, and then you get to try them out and you have lots of time to design new things for your newspaper.
It's basically about finding new contemporary designs and how to execute them for your same old paper.
Probably more design than technical, although I am teaching little tips and things as I go along. For instance, if you have a screened box and you want to put like a little information in that box, don't then put like a stroke around that box. Why box the box? So, little things like that I'm trying to teach them. But I'm really, and I realized in my own design class here at MSU, I start out with, theory and, more, why we do things. But I realized quickly here that, forget that, we got to get this stuff done. They got to be working. They got to be makers this week. So that's kind of what I found to be, I teach 3 days of typography in my design class, and here, I can't. I just got to move forward and kind of teach as I see a problem, individually. So that's what I've kind of enjoyed. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, this stuff is looking bad. But by today, about noon here, on Wednesday, we're seeing some good stuff come out of there. And probably a little shocking. They're all a little shy. They say, oh, I don't think, my editor will like that. So I went over across the hall and dragged the editor in and said, look, this is what we're about. This is, let's do something cool here instead of the same old, same old. So yeah, I'm trying to get them to do some kind of interesting, have a big presence instead of all these little stories with, people trying to do little pictures of art that don't make sense and try to draw things. And I'm a clean, simple designer, and that's what I'm trying to get them to be, because I think people like that more than stuff that's all scattered together and kind of crazy and too much of everything. Less is more. I'm trying to teach that philosophy a little bit. So
I'm learning how to use InDesign in depth, but also pulling like modern styles into an old school publication. I was okay with InDesign, just moderate skill level, and now I really feel like I've learned the ins and outs of it.
I really want them to know InDesign, and some of them, I always assume more than I really should sometimes. Like they probably know how to build pages, build a newspaper, open up a document. They don't. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They might have had someone else do that for them last year, like the design editor or something, and now maybe they're the design editor and they don't know how to do it. So I just take a few minutes and show them just some simple things. I try to teach them a hang punctuation, and it's kind of an advanced thing, but I think it makes your quotes look better. And so I try to teach them things up front, like the first morning I tried to teach them some building blocks, and then we move on from there. But I just really want them to know InDesign somewhat, at least how to get pictures and text on the page.
I love the sources of inspiration. She's got like these culminations of the best designs from around the country. I just love those.
I want them to leave with that idea that sometimes their stuff they've been doing is boring and old, and I don't mean to be mean, but I look at the professional site, Newseum, and I look at front pages, and they're like awful. They're just awful. They're so boring. So, you in this day and age, I show them an old paper where there's no photos on it whatsoever, but it was highly read back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. But that's not going to cut it anymore. You've got to have big visuals, big typography. You still get your story in there, but you've got to lure the reader in. You've got to lure the reader, because the reader's off looking at Instagram. They're not going to read your story unless they're drawn in by cool typography, cool photos, big type oftentimes. I just think we have to go more simple. Not try to do all these crazy things in Photoshop and Illustrator. I mean, those are nice, and if you have time, but not. Sometimes I see students spend so much time on that they lose the simpleness that would get them much more mileage, I think, with their audience. I think I just maybe try to come at it a different angle, and that is this whole thing of you're competing. You're competing with Words with Friends and Instagram, and I know young people don't do Facebook, but all the other things they're into. You've got to compel people. You've got to draw them in and to look at what you have to offer. If you did a study of high school students, they're not reading everything on the page. We know that we're not. You've got to so do it with short reads, maybe with briefs, but you've got some amazing young photographers. Use their work in the paper. I feel like we're competing. We got to figure out a way to get students to look at the paper.
I would recommend this course because it's really good for being able to kind of branch off from the traditional and what your school has always done, and it really helps if you want to kind of change your newspaper, go a little bit outside the box, and learn how to make your paper look nicer and just different from whatever your school has always done.
If you have the same old publication and you're bored with the design, this really helps it break out of its shell, and it teaches you what you need to do to get further in journalism.